this first interview is going to be, anyways, fantastic, but it's going to be in the B2B space. A great interview with a gentleman by the name of James Smiley, and what he does is he uses ClickFunnels to sell, massive, 5 and 6 figure deals, building funnels for these big, B2B companies. Now, very name brand. You guys will actually, you guys definitely know a lot of the companies that he's been working for and working with. Big ones, very big ones. So, and if you wouldn't mind, definitely reach out. James did not need to do this, so if you wouldn't mind, reach out to him to say thanks, because this is a big deal. It's a bit of a longer one, but do you really listen to what he's saying? He spills the beans in this one, man. This is one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. So anyway, let me go over to it now. And our special guest today to the show, this is an episode I've never quite done before, and frankly, it's an area that I personally am still learning about sales funnels in, and I'm really excited to have him here with us today and kind of, I think, kind of part the curtain, kind of let the veil down, so to speak, and very, very pumped to learn from him. Guys, please help me welcome Mr. James Smiley. How you doing?
What's going on, Steve?
Oh, living the dream, man. All of a sudden, there was this guy who kept asking, he's like, hey, do you want, from these really, really big and really popular companies, will you build a funnel for these guys? Hey, what if you built a funnel for these guys? And they're these huge companies, massive, some of them just billion-dollar companies. And I was like, who is this guy? How is he? Number one, who is this? Number two, that would be cool. But number three, how are you getting these leads? How do you find? That's insane. I just got to ask, how do you get into something like B2B funnel building?
Yeah, I was following Russell from some research that we were doing at a big company that I was consulting with, and we were trying to figure out, how big was this internet marketing thing going to be, and content marketing. It was really content and where was content going, and so it was really, really cool. It's just been awesome to see everything that's happened, and been a massive consumer of everything that you guys do. So thanks for everything you guys are doing, and I guess to directly share, how can somebody go from, being an internet marketer or running an agency or, whatever they do now into getting B2B clients. I think, one of the things I try to share with people is, you've got to get face to face with these kind of people. I think your chances go up exponentially if you can get face to face with them. So one of the things that I've been doing and having a lot of success in the past couple years is running kind of a webinar, mini webinar type of system where you could be running a lead or you could be running like a lead ad or a Facebook ad or something, and running that into like a small kind of like auto webinar kind of scenario. Yeah. But even believe it or not, even kind of removing the login aspect, we've seen a lot of success. We've gotten a tremendous amount of appointments by sending like a LinkedIn ad or a YouTube ad directly to a website, to a ClickFunnels page, where it's auto playing myself or one of our sales reps or whatnot. And then from there, they can just click to book a meeting. And
that's like the main goal. You don't do anything else besides just, that's the main goal of the interaction with them.
Yeah, and something that I've used for a long time. I actually learned this, I want to say it was like in 2004 or 5 at a Chet Holmes event, a Chet Holmes, Tony Robbins event. I think it was called Ultimate Business Mastery a long time ago. Sure. But I learned about the ideal thing to do is to try to broaden and generalize more your message and really hit on something that's new, cutting edge, innovative. Chet taught us, years ago to do, things like an executive report or an executive summary. And nowadays with technology, it's pretty easy to come up with something innovative. You can look up online, really innovative videos and blogs and, what are the trends in such and such a technology. And then essentially what we're doing is we're saying, we're running an ad saying, Mr. or Mrs. Executive, are you prepared for the 2020 blah, blah, blah revolution? Or are you prepared for this and this? Join a 3-minute, webinar or whatever you want to call it, and let me explain it to you. and the person there explaining it is my sales rep,
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and then at the end, he or she is saying, well, I'd love to follow up with you. I'd love to give you, this, $600,000 of research that we've done, or whatever that number is, and book an appointment right now. And I can give you this guide. I can hand you this guide or whatever. We would always try to get face to face with them if we can.
So do you run these like the local just to where you are mostly, or are you you're getting on a plane, you're flying out to them a lot?
Yeah, and I think it really depends on what kind of business you're running. When I worked for much larger companies, our territory was across the nation. But in more of like an agency model, or I've helped some internet marketers in this space. It's easy to set up like a local road show or those kind of things through your town or through your city, where you can go and present some information. So really hot things I would think would be for your guys' audience, maybe like where is Facebook going to take business in the next 3 years,
right?
And are the companies in your area prepared for that? And so you can run a local ad saying, hey, I'm booking 9 meetings or 6 meetings, and this is a local tour that we're doing, and it's a $3,000 event, and I'll do it for free. And I'll come to your office, but here's the deal. Number one, the owner has to be there.
Yeah.
And then number 2, you have to give me X amount of time or something like that. So you put some stipulations on it, but if you can get in front of them, your chances are going to go up tremendously. And so utilizing kind of the web system and the web tools and the web automation that you guys have set up, and really, I really like, Russell's like, 2-step follow-up process that you guys use, I believe, for like high ticket sales and stuff. So we use a very similar approach. I would say a lot of the times it's one person versus 2, but the psychology is actually exactly the same as a 2-step. So that might help people when they get on the phone with somebody, kind of knowing what to do and where to take it next. But yeah,
that's amazing. That's really cool. I mean, we're always Go ahead.
So I've done this with as big as companies that are in the government, all the way down to when I was like, I think I was one of Dan Henry's like first 50 or 60 students.
Sure.
And so like when I buy even a course like that, I'll just go implement it like right away. Like I want to know everything in the first 10 days or so. So,
right.
So I went out and booked a ton of, small appointments and went out there and did it. The same process works whether, you're going after a chiropractor, or whether you're going after, a Fortune 2000 or somebody in the government.
That's amazing. Yeah. Because this kind of approach, the core of what we usually teach, is usually, hey, let's do a free plus shipping offer. Here's like this little $7 thing. That's not really the same approach you're going to use when you go to B2B, but the same principles certainly apply of sales. But this is cool. I've never seen this before. That's awesome. So you're saying, and then I want to ask more about you personally right after this too. But you're saying funnel-wise. Go ahead. You're
right. Like the psychology is the same, which is when when I read the .com Secrets book, I was like, this is right on.
Yeah.
Like even in my industry, I was like, I don't know if you guys fully understand like how big it is in my industry. It's huge, and
it's massive, dude. I read it when I was like laying out holding my M16 out there, and I was reading this thing, and I was like, this is changing everything. And all these sergeants were like, shut up, Larson. I was like, no, I don't think you get it. This book's amazing. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a little testimony there.
And I would say, the comprehensiveness of that and the script, it's just scripted out for you. It's the most complete book I've ever seen on this kind of stuff. The other thing I was going to inject too, Steve, is, a lot of people say like, okay, I can get that meeting. What do I sell them? Right? What do companies want? What do what are the sweet spots? And through, I'll kind of share some of the things that we're doing and have seen a lot of success with. So
you're right.
we're seeing a lot of success with companies that are 5 million to about 15 million.
That's kind of a sweet spot for you, right, with this funnel?
It's a sweet spot that it's almost down market from where I usually play. I usually play in the $10 to $100 million client range, but I found the ease of getting into clients that are between 5 and 15 million is unbelievable. And if you look at how many businesses in the last 3 to 5 years have gotten into that 4, 5, 6, $7 million range, it's astronomical. The small and medium sized business has exploded, and so most of these owners have gotten there because of some innovation, some relationship they built, some partnership, some new technology or new industry that came out. And they almost, when you get with them, they almost don't fully understand how they got there.
Right.
But they're just happy they did, right? Which anybody would be. And so
they're like the people that have they figured out enough stuff to get that far, but so that's kind of an interesting filter though, as far as cool clients to have. That's interesting.
Yeah. And so the beauty of these people these companies is, number one, they have money.
Right.
Number two, they reach a plateau where their main goal of the executive staff, the CFO, these people, is they're just trying to maintain revenue and herd the cats. Sure. They don't want revenue drop off, right? So and this is it's a generalization, but I can tell you through Gardner and Forrester and all these market research firms that I've been fortunate enough to see what the data is. These companies that are in the small and medium-sized world, they have no real focus on sales anymore because they're just trying to maintain the revenue that they just ramped up in the last 1 to 5 years.
Interesting.
And so you come in, right, or any of your followers, who have an agency or whatever, and the great questions to ask them is, how does your pipeline look? How does your sales funnel look? What's your cost per acquisition? What's your cost per lead? And it's astonishing. I would say over 9 out of 10, almost 95% of the time, they will not know how to answer that. Wow. So you talk to a $10 million company, they don't know what their cost to acquire a customer is, what their cost per lead is. And so
wow, it truly is an accident then, which makes you the hero.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Awesome.
So you come in, with that angle, and then it's funny, the main thing we lead with is funnels. Right? It's the main thing we lead in. We say, well, are you getting leads online? Are you using online automation? And are you using social media? And 9 out of 10 times, maybe more than that, they're going to say, no, not really, but we've heard about it, or we're thinking about it.
We posted on Facebook once.
Right. Or
we have a page we don't do anything with.
Yeah, like one of my clients is a big company in California. They're a top tech company, and they were telling me that when I asked them these questions, they said, well, we have a marketing agency that did our website. And then a year ago, they said, hey, do you want us to run Facebook ads? This is very typical, right? Marketing company, they know branding. They don't really know leads, sales, or want to be responsible or on the hook for sales. But they know branding. They know the 4 Ps of marketing, like all that stuff, right? Yeah. And so they watched an Etsy video or YouTube or took a class, and now they're the Facebook ad experts. And so here I come into a client, they're spending $5,000 to $6,000 a month on Facebook ads, and all the agency is doing is boosting their posts. And
with no other strategy.
I was like, you're paying this company thousands of dollars, plus you're burning $5,000 of your own money, and all they're doing is boosting your post. That's not even an ad. No. That's not like a real ad.
I can do that. I don't even know Facebook very well. That's easy.
Yeah. So they had done this at full fledged for about 3 months. Wow. They kind of ramped into it, and then they said, we're all in $5,000 a month. And I said, how many sales have you ever made in those 3 months? And they said 0. And I said, so you spent over $15,000 in ads, and you don't have one trackable sale? And he said, yeah. He said, can you help us with that? and so it's like, once you get in the door, you'd be surprised how many of these big companies are disorganized in that area, and they're looking for somebody to help them.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So you were, I mean, right before this, we were kind of chatting, and you were talking about, hey, I mean, there's like this process you go through while you're with them. Do you mind taking us through that, like the outline you have in your head?
Yeah. So, so one of the things that I'll train people on is, when you're in a meeting, when you get face to face with somebody, there's really three things that you need to know before you close. Okay. And here's one thing about closing is, if a sale is moving too fast and it's a big sale, something is drastically wrong. Okay.
Which is such the opposite that you want to know and hear.
Yeah. So it's almost like the opposite of true internet marketing, where it's like you want speed, you want passion, right? Like with these big companies, very few times does one person make the decision. Sure. Nobody really wants to be on the hook if there's a downside, but everybody wants to be wave the flag if there's an upside. So, when you're coming in, you have to understand that there's going to be, B2B is more of a chess match. And you have to understand how the chess match is played and why people want you in there. And believe it or not, the bigger the company, it's not always about revenue and it's not always about sales. It's usually about the bigger the company. And I'm just saying this so people understand that most of the time, the motivation, the influential factor is going to be somebody wants a promotion, somebody wants to look good, somebody, something like that. So
just to follow up with that real quick, what's your strategy to make sure you're actually pitching like the decision maker? You know what I mean? Because otherwise I could see you literally pitching everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the things that I do when we're warming up leads in booking meetings is so number one, we're trying to get a face-to-face meeting. Number two, if we're going to do an on-site seminar or something like that, we require the decision maker to be there, or we'll say, or we'll charge you. So the decision maker has to be there, or we'll send you an invoice, and they have to stay the whole time. So if you don't set those parameters, 80% of the time, you're going to get some marketing manager who's just basically stealing your ideas and going to go tell the boss that now they're smarter. So you've got to get the decision maker there when you're presenting and being the guru.
And you're presenting in their office with them as like a road show, part of your funnel, basically.
Yeah, that's been a big thing that we've done the past 5, 6, 7 years. I've done it at a number of different companies, big companies, small startups, all those kind of things, and for my own agency, and it's worked really well. If you can't get into meetings, the next best thing, something that, and I'll just throw this out there for your audience as well, just kind of like a back end hack that we're using, is something that works really, really well is to set up your own meetup.com or network with somebody who runs a meetup.com and say, hey, I'm a XYZ expert. I'm a Facebook ad expert. I'm an online automation expert, and say, I do the seminar and, we've done it, the value of it is thousands of dollars, but I'll do it for your people for free. If you can get 10 people or 20 people in the room. And then, you can use Facebook, you can use, all the little event invite apps to kind of get people there. You can use meetup.com. For a while, we ran our own meetup.com here when we were just kind of getting established in Dallas. And here's the thing about B2B that's different is you only need like 1 or 2 or 3 really good people in the room to make a 6-figure income.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've done one of the most profitable meetings in the past, well, really this year that I did was with one person. And this person was a big business owner, big time networker, multimillionaire. And it was just to him. And I talked to him and wrote all over his whiteboard for, an hour and a half. And then he referred me to my biggest client this year. And so, you know, which I mean, you know, getting a 5 and 6 figure deal is pretty common in the B2B space.
Sure.
And so,
which is just crazy for so many people who are just starting this game. Like that blows their mind. You know, one deal, 6 figures, what? You know, but that's the kind of stuff that you kept dropping on my Voxer. I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah, and really, you know, some of the people that I've been, you know, helping is the ideal scenario for somebody like me is to go there, win that relationship, kind of keep up the corporate relations, and broker out the services on the back end to people. So, you know, I've got a network of kind of trusted people. If I need email copy, if I need funnels, if I need Facebook ads, you know what I mean? And so that's an ideal scenario for somebody like me. Some of your people may, you know, I would say when you start out, try to do as much as you can so you kind of learn the process inside and out.
Sure.
But it's amazing how much money you can make versus how much time you put in. I always have people say, like, they're like, James, you know, you have 4 kids, married for 13 years, great marriage. You seem like you know, I used to be a pro fisherman, a pro bass fisherman. So I fish a lot. Like I have all these fishing pictures. I kind of run like an info product for fishing. Like, and they're like, how do you do all this stuff? And you have this like huge business and you're speaking at these conferences and stuff. And I'm like, it's the B2B space that I play in where I only need, you know, less than a handful of clients at a time. And they're going to more than, you know, take care of me. And, you know, I would say something that's really important, and I don't want to be one of those people to like paint a false reality here.
Sure.
You got to know how to fire your own client when you're in this game, because
do you do it a lot?
I would say I turn down about 50% of the people who say they want to work with me.
That makes me feel better because I fire a lot of people.
Yeah.
Fire your own customer. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it might even be more. Whereas if I feel like I'm going to get into something and as soon as something goes wrong, they're going to blame me.
Yeah.
Like it could be anything, something in marketing, revenue, CFO doesn't, you know, whatever. I'm out of there. You know, like that.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a guy like just recently, and he ran up to me and he's like, hey, and he's offering, you know, 50, 100 grand for me to build a funnel. And I was like, hey, that's really cool. And it was like a drop in the hat, really easy one that I knew with like double sales and all this stuff. But it was simply because I said no to him just because I didn't think we'd get along. And that sounds ludicrous to people, but I don't want to get into this relationship with someone where it's like just hell the whole way, you know? It's like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I think a key is firing more than hiring almost. You know what I mean? Just like be really picky with those high-end ones. That's the biggest thing I've learned anyway.
And kind of something to piggyback off that, Steve, is like you want to make sure you're set up as a corporate entity, a minimum of an LLC.
Okay.
Because you're dealing with big clients and they have lawyers. So,
gotcha.
You know, just, I mean, I've been able to navigate the waters and stay out of any of that, but you know, this is not like, you know, working with a 3-man show down at the local strip mall area. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, if something goes wrong, the CFO is not going to take the heat. He's going to shift it to somebody else. And so,
sure.
You just need to be prepared for that and make sure that you don't get in those kind of relationships on the front end. That's the best thing you can do to protect yourself.
Right. That's interesting. Now, when you first got started doing this, I'm sure you had your own legal documents and all the stuff did you spend a lot, probably more time, obviously, than the average person just setting up the legal aspects of it?
Yeah. I hired a coach to make sure I did everything right. Okay. And, you know, it's worth, I'm big into coaching. I've always been. And so I hired somebody just to make sure that I had all that buttoned up. It's not as complicated as I thought, but I'd rather be safe than sorry on that end.
Sure.
You know, and a lot of these companies, they're kind of, you know, legacy business models and legacy leadership styles. Like, they're not going to be all about handshake deals a lot. So,
yeah.
So, you know, you're going to need, you know, decent contracts and things like that, out clauses. You don't ever want to get stuck to where you can't get out. You always want there to be a way for you to step out without any repercussion.
Right.
You know, and that's a big thing. Yeah.
So you've gone through and you showed me how you got the leads. totally genius funnel. And meetup.com, oh, I don't know, I'd ever thought of that before. Like, people go to those. Like, that's perfect for that industry. Like, anyway.
Yeah. We've ran them, like digital marketing ones, like 5-10 people will show up the first meeting. We've ran them technology ones, you'll get a ton of people, so meetup.com, I mean, there's just people there, and once you schedule that, you can rally all your social media channels to get more people there. But yeah, I mean, let me give people kind of like a hack on how, where to have this meeting, right? Like, you don't want to have it at your home or something, like, and you may not have a place of business. The best places I found is, number one, a really nice local library. Usually,
really,
like I'm here in Frisco, Texas. Just a local library. There's a great meeting space, projectors, all that stuff, and it's free as long as you're a card-carrying member of the library,
which takes like 5 seconds. Yeah.
Right. So that's funny. The lady asked me, like, "Are you a card-carrying member?" I'm like, "That sounds like a little bit more than a card-carrying member of the library." So
where's the bouncer?
The other really cool place is the Microsoft stores. If you have a Microsoft store in your town or city, they usually have a business center that's attached to it. And you can go in there, and as long as you're not, I hate to say this, but as long as you're not bringing an Apple computer, bring a Windows computer, there are hookups and everything, and just
wow.
It's a really cool, free, innovative space. You just call down there, say, "Hey, I want to book a business meeting," and they love it because a bunch of business executives are going to come and be around their technology.
Sure.
So they'll let you come in for free. So that's kind of two, easy places to have it. The third one is I'll ask a company, if they want to sponsor the location. And that actually works really well because you'll usually have somebody who wants to show off or maybe wants to create opportunity for themselves. So they'll host it in their own building.
Wow.
And so that's kind of the third way we've done it, and it works out really well.
Do you end up selling a lot of times the sponsor on your services? I can imagine that they'd get interested too. That's good.
We will sell everybody in the meeting.
Sure.
We'll sell to everybody. Yeah. So,
now, do you mind going into how you run the meeting itself? Like,
yeah.
What do you do in there? Hey guys, want to build a funnel?
Yeah. So surprisingly, when I first downloaded like Webinar Secrets and all these kind of online methodologies, it's actually very similar.
I thought so. I was wondering if it was the same. Okay, yeah, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's why, like, the more that I've kind of unraveled all the things that you guys are putting out. Number one, I've personally spent over $10,000 in your guys' stuff. I mean,
sure.
Fill your funnel, at the show, like everything. Like your guys' stuff has been rock solid, and I actually consume it, right?
Sure.
And so as I've been consuming it, I'm like, this is so unbelievably productive in my area. I mean, you could actually take the content of some of these things and just say, hey, B2B, fill your funnel, B2B, sales presentations, and it would open up the doors tremendously, So
that's how I did my first info product. Actually, I was in college. I read .com Secrets. I was obsessed with it. I held a 3-hour meeting in a stranger's home with tons of people, and I recorded it. It was the same content. Brilliant.
Yeah. So it's amazing. Like, one of the biggest things that people are going to need when they're getting started out is they're going to need credibility, right? Yeah. And usually people will give you a shot. You can set up one of these meetings in a couple weeks, and actually have it. Like, in 10 days from now, you can have your first meeting and have people there. But you're going to want to make sure you record it, the audio. You can get you can go on Amazon.com. There's a $20 Boya microphone that has a 20-foot extension. You can lapel it up onto yourself so you can record what you're doing. Number two, you want to get somebody to take some photos so you have photos. All those kind of things help you build credibility. So as you continue to move forward, you can use those photos, use the recording, all those things as promotional items and those kind of things.
Interesting.
And then once you get into the meeting, the general structure is, in the very beginning, I will absolutely try to wow them with something big, like the biggest headline I can come up with.
Sure.
And so in my career, I was able to grow 2 0 to $20 million businesses, the new lines of business, like from nothing to over 20 million.
Oh my gosh.
And I did 2 of those before I was 35.
Holy crap.
And so so that's usually the line I'll start out with, is I'll say, I'm going to tell you kind of the back end secrets of how I grew 2 0 to $20 million businesses for 2 different companies and how I did it before I was 35. And maybe some of that will be helpful for you guys. Would you guys be on board if I shared that with you?
Trial close what?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And so that shocks them. And then you kind of go into like, you're like the 3-step process you guys use is awesome.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, the biggest thing you want to do is push them to a one-on-one meeting. Like, and you'll get people the hot leads are going to walk right up to you.
Sure.
But try to push everybody to a meeting. So if you can get 10 people, or let's say you only get 5 people in the room, if you can book half of those people and then close one of them, that could be easily a 5-figure deal. Easily a 5-figure deal.
Interesting.
And so yeah, I mean, and that's just with 5, so.
Right.
But it's surprising, right? Well, like when you think of the psychology of what we're doing, like the more I read the stuff you guys put out, I'm like, wow, this just crystallizes what we've been working on. Like it streamlined everything we've been doing.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's been really cool.
So you just barely touched on it. So you go through, use some of like the perfect webinar script, which we kind of, Russell's always mentioned he regrets that he called it that because it's used way more places than just a webinar.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to push to a one-on-one with them, which is awesome. Booking and closing them. The one part that you kind of mentioned before the call, so that I'm like biting at the bit to I want to hear about also, because every single one that you ever talked about with me was like these huge deals with these very well-known companies. I'm just not sure if I'm allowed to say the name, so I'm not. But I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, how do you structure a 5 and 6 figure kind of deal?
Yeah, good question. So I'll kind of I'll just reveal kind of what we do, and hopefully that helps your audience. So the 3 things that mentally in my head when I get to a one-on-one meeting, whether that's a phone call, but ideally it's face-to-face, is I'm looking for, is there a need? Like, do they really have a need for my results, right? So I'm pushing results, what I've done, and here's a simple hack I've taught new sales reps. I mean, I had a sales rep come in who was a used car salesman, and at AT&T he ended up being one of the top salesmen in the entire country amongst 10,000 sales reps, and he was a used car salesman. And I've taught them this strategy of, if you don't have a true result, just Google a result in that industry for that type of service or technology. And there's stories out there, there's blogs, there's videos, and you want to be able to share some type of result. Like people who use this is the type of result they're getting. Like if you can't honestly say, my clients are doing this, or your competitor who works with me is doing this, then at least share something in the industry, and it will help you move the conversation forward. But you need them to anchor on a result. And I will keep going back to, so is that the kind of result that you guys want in your business? Like, or somehow I might say, what would it do for you guys? I mean, I know you guys have a lot going on, but like, what would it do if you were able to get that kind of result? I mean, do you actually think you could handle like that amount of leads, or would I absolutely swamp you? And so once I can get them to anchor on a result, that I'm trying to see, like, is there really a need with that, right? And so once I've established that, and a lot of times if I don't understand it, I will just ask them. I'll say, do you actually need this, or do you just think it's cool? Like, do you need that result? Will it actually help your business? Stakeholders, board members, VC, angel investors, like, will those guys care, or how big is this, right? So number 1 is need. So number 2, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because that's actually a very stark difference between what we do, and sounds like B2B funnels. We always tell people what they want, if we try and sell people what they need, most of the time you don't make a lot of money with B2C, in that category. That's interesting. So you specifically go for the need. That makes sense too. These big companies, they got a bunch of cash. They're trying to figure out where to, how to plug the holes in. That's probably their mindset anyway. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And I would say one of the things that I've seen a contrast between what the internet marketing world, as I've understood it and consumed it to be, and B2B is, in B2B, there's not as much emotional decisions.
Huh.
And people who make emotional decisions do not stay in executive leadership very long.
Sure.
And so it's like the bigger a company gets, the less agile they get, right? Like,
sure.
I ran innovation at AT&T. I did some stuff with Facebook. Like, when you deal with these bigger companies, they'll talk about, I ran an innovation center, but I would always say, what are we innovating? Because when you're a big company, you can't make as many mistakes, because when you make a mistake, that could tank your stock price $3, which is billions of dollars.
Interesting. They're all walking on eggshells all the time. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so people want sign-off, approvals, and all those kind of things, and so it's important to have someone inside the business, ideally the key decision maker, the owner, who's your champion. Very key to have a champion, someone who's willing to champion it internally in the business. But I would not try to push to one call closes and those kind of things as much, because a lot of times there are influential factors. Like if a CEO makes a decision and he spends money on you, but then this other part of the business is going under, somebody like the CFO, the board, whatever, could say, well, why did you shift money there versus over on this side? So there's a lot of factors that take place. And so although I am absolutely pushing them to make an emotional decision, so I'm actually trying to push on that, want feeling more.
Right.
But I'm presenting it more as a need. Maybe the way I would say that.
Okay. That's clever. I love that.
Yeah. Huh. So number one need, the next thing I'll go to in the meeting is I will ask them directly. Perfect. I mean, that's cool. I think I know we can do it. You got the right person, type of thing. And then I'll say, so what's your timeline to get this done? Like, when would it be good for you to get this done? When do you want it done? And once again, like, if a sale is moving too fast and they're just skipping over this stuff, something's going to fall on the back end, and you're not going to close the sale. So you need to establish a need and get common agreement there. Then you need to establish and get common agreement on a timeline. Okay, they may say, I need all these results in 2 weeks. You're running LinkedIn or Facebook ads or whatever, and you go, that ain't happening.
Right.
So you need to understand the timeline, right? And that's going to set expectations, right? If you can get agreement there, the next question I will ask is the most important, which is about the money. And I'll say, so you want these results. We've already talked about how we think you can generate $8,000 a month more, or $8,000 a week more, whatever.
Wow.
What's your budget to be able to what are you willing to invest to be able to do that? And I'll tell you, like 90% of the time, somebody's not going to come back and say, I have $200,000 free cash flow.
Sure.
But you will find out with that question if they don't have a budget. Huh. I mean, most of the time you're going to find out if they don't, and that's key, right? Like if somebody comes back to me and says, I can probably carve out like $6,000 to $8,000 this year for you. That's not my client.
Sure, Sure.
Although it could be a great relationship for a lot of people, it's not my client. So
if they don't have a budget, do you walk then?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yep. I've got like kind of like a playbook that I'll usually leave with them. That during the meeting I'm kind of like writing a few notes, a few ideas. I'm kind of wowing them with the type of results, and if they start asking you, they might start asking you details about, well, why are you an expert at this? So I might go into, different ways to create audiences and, some of the, so as I'm telling them like hacks and things like that, I'll be writing those down, and then I end up leaving that behind with them. It's something nice that we leave behind. But typically, the only three things that I need to know is there a need, is there a timeline, and is there a budget? And that goes for whether I'm working with somebody in the government, to whether I'm working with a Fortune 10 or, a new startup or an individual.
Mm.
So
that's amazing. That's amazing. So, holy crap. That's really cool. It's neat to see like how you've been pulling off on there. I mean, I always tell people like the customer's not always right. Customer's not always right. Whoever said that phrase was just totally wrong and not in business or read about it in a book or something. Like, it's cool to see how you're sifting and sorting out people like that.
Yeah, and then for time, I know we're going to be cutting close here. Do you want me to share how to structure the price tag?
That would be awesome, actually. That's a big question I've got for it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've learned this over the years. When I was in my 20s, I would always screw this up. It's got in my late 20s, early 30s. I've started figuring it out. Now I feel like I've really crystallized this. So what you want to do, especially if you're an individual consultant or running a small agency, is number one, you're going to probably laugh at how similar this is to what you guys do. It's actually the same exact psychology, just a little bit different on how you present it. But the first thing I do is I'll say, so if I were working at such and such a company, so a live example would be when I was at AT&T, I was in what's called the HYPO program, the High Potential Executives program. So I was on a fast track to be an executive in the company. And so essentially around October of this year, I left a couple years ago, but around October of this year, there was a high likelihood I would be at a VP or some type of executive or something like that, as long as I was progressing, right? Sure. So what I tell them is, that kind of a job. So I left that, and I say, now that's a $300,000 to $500,000 a year job. Sure. And so that's kind of like where I start. And it's really important that when you present that figure of what your true full value is, it's important that they believe it. Okay. But when I was younger, I used to just zoom by it and I was kind of embarrassed. Sure. Like, if you can't anchor off of that, because that actually becomes like your high price tag, where then you start doing a price drop, right? Similar to what all these guys do, what you guys teach, right? Like, yeah. You want to anchor off of what's your absolute highest value, and be honest. Okay, if you're an $80,000 person, say you're 80. If you're 100, say you're 100. If you're 50, say you're 50. But so you anchor off that, and then so in their mind, they're going, I want that result. But crap, I can't afford that. Sure. And then the next thing you kind of bridge to is you say, so not only, am I, at least a $300,000 to $500,000 employee, but you look at some of my competitors who offer this service, and trust me, there's always going to be somebody who's more pricey than you, than me, right? So you say some of my competitors, I mean, you may know these guys, this guy or this guy, they charge $400,000 to $600,000 for this service. In fact, just to have this meeting could be $2,000. So now they're going, dude, this was a great meeting, but I don't have that kind of money, right? But they have to believe that you're worth it, or that somebody would actually pay you for that. Okay, so if they don't believe,
doing that, how you anchor in that?
You set it up from the very beginning. Gotcha. From when you come in, when somebody says, I was meeting with I'll just say I was meeting with Siemens CEO not that long ago, and sure. And I don't know the guy. A partner of mine brought me in, and he sits me down. I'm the youngest guy in the room, and he looks me dead in the eye, shakes my hand with a big old smile, and he says, James, tell me something about yourself. Just right away, no introduction. Tell me about so that's very common, right? Sure. The last thing you want to do is go through your resume. Okay, they're not actually asking you, tell me your resume. No. The thing you want to say is, what are your results? What are the things you've done that are huge, the big headlines? So that's where, instead of saying, well, when I first got into technology, but like that's, you're like losing the sale already. The first thing you want to say is, well, what's really cool is I sold this deal and have this partnership, and I've been able to help these logos, and I've been in this kind of publication, or I have a book, or, you want to almost like give your sales pitch, like your value proposition to the world, like what are your big headlines? So in the very beginning, they're going, wow, this person's pretty high level. This person is much more high level than our marketing managers. So
that's interesting. It's you're not necessarily telling the origin story, but you're telling You're kind of in the testimonial phase of what you've done. Okay. I'm just putting it in my head where you're going. Okay, cool.
Yes. The only thing I teach people to talk about, I've told hundreds of sales reps this, the only thing you want to share is your results. You want to share what you've done, who you've helped, what their ROI was. Don't talk about, I've been in the industry for 22 years and like no one cares about that stuff because most people have been in the industry for X amount of years.
Sure, sure. Especially if they're CEO, they're like, yeah, I've been here forever, you know?
Yeah. So that's not impressive. And I would say the same thing in terms of how you fill out your LinkedIn. If you're not established in the industry, don't make your LinkedIn a resume. Make your LinkedIn from top to bottom all about results, you know, and you'll see a significant difference in the type of people that want to engage with you. So yeah, do you want me to come back to the price tag thing?
Oh heck yeah. This is awesome. I'm just trying to keep you going. I don't want it to turn it off. This is awesome.
This is fun. I'm going to anchor on a super high price tag that I'm worth as a full-time employee working at a corporation, working 40 to 60 hours a week, whatever that is, and then I'll bridge it to, okay, this is what my competitors are worth, and this is what they charge you, and hey, you might have even talked to one of these guys, right? And so a lot of times they're like, yeah, I've heard about them, and man, this is way too pricey. So then I'll start to back it into, typically, I would charge, $150,000 for something like this. And when I present that, I'm saying I start off with, in order for me to drive $1.2 million of new sales revenue or whatever that is, right? Like I actually try not to lean as much on revenue. I'll lean more towards a different metric. I'll try to anchor on a different metric. Like in order for me to double your leads, in order for me to 4x your leads, or in order for me to take your cost per lead to this number, right? Like I'll try to stay off of the revenue number now. I learned that, when I was really young, I used to just talk about revenue, but it's better to talk about something slightly different, something that's a little bit more easily measurable for something that I can deliver. And then so I'll say, in order for me to do this, you think about the impact and what that could do to your revenue, how it could double, triple your revenue, how it could make you, I won't say this directly, but essentially I'll hit on something like how it could make you look better to your boss, to the board, to how much more money you can get from your VCs, right? Like I'll hit on that. And then I'll say, in order for me to do that, it's a deal at $150,000. So now I've established like, okay, there's a price tag, and now they're like, oh crap, Right. And so now the very next thing I step into, okay, and you have to snap to this quick, is the only thing we need to know together here is, do you want this result? And if you want that, I can always find a way to help you pay for it. And once you say that line, now they're like, oh, cool, awesome. They're with you, right? Now they're like, okay, help me pay for this. And that's where you can break it into different structures where you can do, if I can, I'll try to do half up front and then, take the rest and divide it over 6 months or 10 months or whatever you want to do. Make sure you have a good contract there. So if they cancel, there's, like we try to do like a 60-day out. So if they want to cancel today, they still have to pay 2 more months. So we'll include a lot of those clauses in there. So they can't just drop us on a dime.
Sure.
And we tell them, look, you're a big company. Like, every partnership will end at some point. Everyone, right? You're never linked at the hip with a company forever.
Sure.
So the contracts are set up to help you make sure that when those departures happen, that everyone's on the same page. And so what I'll say is, you don't want me just to leave and all your ads are running and all this stuff, right? So the clause is something that makes it a smooth transition for both of us, to make sure that you're covered, that you guys don't have exposure, those kind of things, or added risk just because, maybe I find a better client. I wouldn't say it like that, but, whatever. So yeah, and then a lot of people will ask you in the contracting process about, they'll say, well, I don't know if I want a commitment. Like I want it month to month. Do you do month to month? And I will say this. I'll say I don't. And here's why. One is, if there's no commitment, I can drop you like a dime because there's a lot of you. There's only one of me, but there's a lot of you. So you have to.
Great line.
So I may not say that directly, but I'm just trying to be quick here.
Sure.
That I'm going to turn the table there and say, do you just want me to leave? And that's what they're used to, like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. We want some type of commitment. We don't want you to run off to our competitors, right?
Yeah.
So that's something I'll do in the contracting process as well, is try to make sure that I'm not just going to get left out in the cold, protecting myself, protecting my revenue so it's more predictable. Most companies are not just going to drop it all up front unless they're more government related, those kind of things. Or if you're backing up on their fiscal year, they might just drop some cash like that. But yeah, I mean, most of the time they're going to want some type of structure. And so the best is to do half up front if you can. It's very typical in contracts to see that.
Sure.
The next best would be make them pay some balloon payment up front.
Sure.
So, and say, guys, you guys know, like, to set this up, it's 1,000 times harder to set it up than to maintain it 3 months later.
Sure.
So I need to make sure that I'm not running on a negative. And I always say things, when it comes down to cost, a big thing you want to inject is, I've got a lot. I mean, as you can imagine, I've got a million people. Like, I could go down to all your competitors. They would all want to work with me on this. I just need to make sure that I'm paid so that this keeps my attention. So my attention's on it, right? Ooh. And that's actually true. Like,
it is 100%. Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah. Like, when you're getting paid $500 or $1,000 a month, like, you're like, $1,000 and trying to get to $12,000. It's so small, right?
Yeah,
but if somebody's paying you $5,000 or $12,000, like, it's much bigger deal, right? So that's one thing that I'll try to inject is, you're paying to make sure that my attention stays on it. So I'll inject that. Another thing, if I'm having problems closing or adjusting price, is I will bring up that, what you're really getting here, I'll talk about corporate positions, is you're getting a marketing manager, you're getting online strategic digital marketing VP, and you're getting a salesperson. Huh. Think about if you were to hire those people, like, just the hiring process would cost you 5 figures or more, multi-5 figures, just to hire them.
Sure.
And then you're like, then you got to maintain them. And then you got, all the different things that come in with employees. And then I'll even throw it out. I'll say, look, if you want me to find you those 3 people, I know the best. I know like 3 really good ones. I can help you bring them on. And they're looking at that price tag going, forget that.
Sure.
So those are some of the things that I do to try to, work on price justification. But if you can get down to selling them on the result, and then you've set them at ease and say, look, my only job now is to help you. Let's work together to figure out how to pay for it, right? And they're like, yeah, let's have that discussion.
That is so cool, because then you're not standing in there being the bad guy. You're the guy saying, you're like, instead of standing forward, face to face with them, now you're standing side by side. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah,
it works. So cool. So, I mean, obviously you're selling throughout. I mean, the sale's never going to end. Even after you've made the sale continues, obviously. But when do you know that you have them?
I know I have them when. That's a great question. To me, I've learned it's more of a gut feel.
Sure.
Over time, I just get this gut feel like, this one's going to work. But I think the reality of that is, when I've got the decision maker, I've got agreement on time, on need, time, and budget. And the person is like anchoring with me on all the big anchors, the result, my value, my ultimate value. Like, when they're anchoring on those 2 things and they're sold on it, they're like, I'm trying to close a $150,000 deal right now, and I've had the CEO tell me multiple times, because I'll throw it out there. I'll say, call him on his cell phone, hey man, we can sign it, I know, and he's like, yeah. he's like, man, he's like, yeah, I need to get this done. We need to get this done. And I'll say, now the other option, man, like, honestly, you can hire me outright. Like, I will entertain that. Like, if you want to bring that kind of contract forward. And the first thing they do is go, dude, I can't afford that. So I'm giving them a bargain, right?
Sure.
And so, that when I know I've got them there, I've got them, and the last thing I'll say is, it's a fine line between you want to keep pushing, you want to make them commit to, okay, cool. Well, why don't you, think about it, and let's set up a meeting for Friday where we can, finalize this, right? You want to give them an end date. That's where the scarcity and all those kind of things come into play. And I will absolutely, 80% of the time they're going to drag their feet. It just happens, right? Like, people don't want to be on the hook for signing $100,000 or $200,000 or $50,000 deal.
Sure.
And there's always an amount. There's always a level of unknown. Anytime you sign a deal, it doesn't matter how good what kind of testimony somebody has. There's a level of unknown. You're like, I don't know. I mean, I hope the guy does what he says,
sure,
but I don't know. So there's a level of risk that they're taking on. So that's why they drag their feet. And it's important to, like, what's that saying in the 7 Highly Habits? It's like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's like, it's more important to understand than to be understood.
Right. And
so the reason they're dragging their feet, you have to understand that. It's and most of the time it's because they don't want to be on the hook if something goes wrong.
Which is why you take the positioning of being next to them, helping them pay for it. I'm assuming that helps like crazy.
Yes. It's huge there. And then also, I'll as days go by, I'll say, hey man, as you know, like, we have marketing systems, automation out there 24/7, 365. And just to let you know, like, I've got to move my business forward like you do every day. And so I've got some more leads in this area. And I just want to know, like, how does it look? Are you, what's your level of confidence here that this is going to happen in the next, week or two?
Oh, good question.
You know what I mean? And that's a good gauging question. And so you need to inject. I just love when you guys talk about scarcity, because, like, I've been doing that my whole life, but I never called it that.
Sure.
And it just it makes it so clear. Like, it's a word that you can always go to at the end of a sale. Like, what do I need to do to create some scarcity and some urgency in this guy's mind?
Right. That's interesting. Scarcity without saying, hey, I'm so hard to get a hold of that, that we should jump into bed together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. In B2B, most people are going to see through that stuff.
Sure.
So you need to be genuine,
sure.
For sure. Yeah.
That makes sense. Man, oh my gosh, I wish there was more time. I have to actually leave and actually go build for the other man. But I'm blown away. This is insane. This is so cool. I've never had such a clear understanding of how someone actually pulls the funnels off in B2B. I've got another buddy who does them as well, but this is insane though. So you've gone through, and just to recap, I always take notes every time I interview somebody, just because I learned so much, man. Especially, holy crap, this has been amazing. So obviously, you went through and how to structure the 5 to 6 figure price point, the price tag, and the deal with the need, timeline, and hey, what's the budget for this? And you actually start getting the money there. I love the process, the actual funnel itself. That's amazing. Every time that we teach somebody, hey, if you want to start going, like right now in 2 Comma Club coaching, there's been a few people who have asked, like, hey, can I sell a $10,000 price point off of a webinar? And most of the time, we usually say no. Like, by that price tag, you need to start getting them out. You got to change the selling environment. You need to go and separate them from behind their computer and go get them somewhere. And so the fact that you say that, first of all, the leads coming through LinkedIn usually, then through like some kind of maybe auto webinar, you're booking a call, and you're pushing them to like an event where, it's you're a traveling roadshow, so catch me now because I'm leaving kind of thing. Like, that's, oh my gosh, that's so cool because you're changing that selling environment. And anyway, I have so many notes that I'm putting notes on my notes in between lines, like so I can't even decipher them all on the spot right now, but I will very shortly. But man, this has been fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciated being able to share it with you guys.
Where can people find out about you?
Yeah, thanks for that. So jamessmiley.org is the main site to go to. We're going to be doing. There's just been so much demand.
Sure.
From in the past, couple months, really I would say the last 3 or 4 months, it's. I had a big press release and just different things, and I've had a lot of people say, "How do I do that?"
Right.
So we're going to put something together to start, coaching people and helping them get into this. I'm really into personalization. It's just kind of my style. So I'm not going to do it traditional, like, hey, just like most people would probably do it, like just buy my online course or something. We're going to do it a little bit more personal, but
Sure.
because I think if you're going to get in this space, that's where your head needs to start going, no matter what. So we put together some resources at jamessmiley.org/sales.
Okay.
And there's a playbook that we've put together, and so this is a playbook that I used, when we IPO'd a company called Telenav. It was $350 million a year, revenue SaaS company. Is one of the most successful GPS technology companies out of Silicon Valley. But when I came in, I was a 6th employee, and when I left, there was like 400 employees.
Wow.
And so I ran sales from Los Angeles all the way to the other side of the country, and so this kind of goes over, how did we go about that process, and how did we go about closing all those big deals and getting all those big partnerships done, and it's really become like a playbook for people when they go into a meeting. It tells them how do you talk through the price tag, how do you even start generating B2B leads. And another cool thing that we just went ahead and put in this playbook is there's a PowerPoint presentation that's a template, and it's like 100 slides. And we had a big market research firm put this thing together. And so whenever I need to make a pitch, I'll go in there and grab 3 or 4 slides, and the graphics and everything is amazing. And so we actually paid $7,000. We literally paid $7,000 to have this thing made about 2 years ago. And so I'm just going to give that away in this playbook. So you'll know how to generate leads. You'll have a really slick way to do your presentation, so you look super professional. Just slap your own logo and your own, feature, function, benefits, and all those your results in there, and we'll teach you, kind of the system of how to close. One of the biggest things that you guys need is credibility. And if you're not an author, what I'm going to do is I'll include in here as maybe like a bonus is I'll co-author a book with you, which is very likely to be an Amazon bestseller. I've got a couple of those. So
whoa.
So at least you'll get the home study course, you'll get one-on-one time with me, in the mastermind group, and then you'll also be a co-author of a bestseller that you can use that as like your business card. You know what I mean? Like going into business and saying, oh yeah, by the way,
Wow.
here's something I wrote on Facebook ads, here's something I wrote on online automation or whatever. So I'm hoping like that's just like a killer value, and people, would sign up for that.
Good.
So that's
man. That's huge.
Yeah. So hopefully it adds a ton of value to people who are trying to figure this thing out. It's at jamessmiley.org/sales. What's just funny is like my passion truly is like to help people, and especially like entrepreneurs. Like that's where I came from. And one of the things I started telling people, last year, and this when they started asking me about this is, I bet you when people first got into Facebook ads or they first got into, whatever, that there was all this unknown, right? But then a couple months later, they're like, I got this,
Sure.
right? And that's the same thing here, right? I mean, once you get your first 1 or 2 down, you're going to feel like this is easy, or it's the process becomes a lot easier. So
that's awesome. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening, and thanks so much for James as well, the B2B expert, sales rep, trainer, script writer, event thrower, sponsor getterer, pro bass fisherman. It's been amazing. I really appreciate it. And guys, go to jamessmiley.org/sales and get, frankly, one of the coolest things anyone's ever given away on the show. So, oh my gosh, I'm going to go there right now and go opt in as soon as we're done. Anyways, thanks so much, man.
Okay. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Sales Funnel Radio. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Want to get one of today's best internet sales funnel for free? Go to salesfunnelbroker.com/free funnels to download your pre-built sales funnel today.